was our vision statement. What were we looking to support, right? What did the business want from us? If you talk about pivotal moments for companies then that have turned them around, definitely a significant portion of that story is around how they've priced and packaged their solutions, their products, and that has been a pivotal moment for many companies that actually turned around and really made them a successful company, right? Now let's look at our vision statement, right? There are multiple aspects packed in it. Let's unpack it one by one. First of all, we wanted to build one commerce platform. Right, we want to so Atlassian has a suite of products, right? We do have a variety of products that we have, some built in-house, some coming in through acquisitions. We wanted to make sure that we are able to build all of them through a unified billing platform, because that does enable us to actually ease how we cross-flow products from one product, our customers from one product to another, right? Things like credit card sharing are much easier to do if you have the same underlying billing platform powering all of these products. Second thing was we wanted to enable flexible billing. Now, when we look at our different products suite that we support, different products want to monetize using different pricing strategies, right? And there's definitely in the SaaS billing world, there's a lot of nuance to how you price it. Some of our products do usage-based billing. Some do a seat-based billing. We want to also support capabilities like overage-based billing, where you have a certain limit up to which it is free. Beyond that, we start charging you. We want to have different trial configurations. We want to have different editions of our offerings that people can move up and down into. So there's a lot of flexibility that we wanted to actually build and support in terms of how we were how we were selling our software. The next part is around how we sell software, right? We also wanted to provide a lot of flexibility on that. And what I mean by selling is, we do have a sales team and we want to give them the right toolkit to be able to make our products lucrative to our end customers. That involves being able to, bundle products together. Like we want to package things together and offer them a discount. We may want to offer discount, special pricing to certain cohort of our customers. We also have the concept of resellers or solution partners that work very closely with us, who essentially buy software from us and sell it to the end customer. And they again get, because of the bulk deals that they bring in, they get special pricing from our side, right? So we want to basically support all of that flexibility when designing this billing platform. Lastly, we don't only just sell software that belongs to us. We also have a huge partner ecosystem of developers that actually build apps on top of our software and sell it to our consumers. We also wanted to extend all of the flexibility of pricing and packaging and selling to these 3P partners that we have. So that was basically the landscape, the vision that we wanted to get towards, right? Let's take a minute to also talk about what did we have at that point in time. Right? Prior to building this platform, we had a legacy monolith that was pretty much powering all of the capabilities that I just talked about, right? And there were multiple challenges there. First of all, it was a 20+ year code base, right? 20 years back, there was no cloud. Right? We did not have cloud subscription-based billing. We primarily had server offerings, and this was designed for server offerings. And the way server differs from cloud from a billing perspective is server is, you buy one, like many of you may have worked in the licensing model where, you buy once, you would download a license, you download a jar, and then you use the software for the rest of your life. That is what server billing looks like, versus cloud billing is a more subscription-based billing, more like Netflix or, AWS, where you kind of pay on a recurring basis, depending on your billing cycles, right? So it was originally designed for server billing, which was a one-time buy, and kind of it force-fit cloud billing, which was more of a recurring billing model, right? Second aspect was it was really making it difficult for us to extend to more broader use cases. In the initial days, we primarily had very limited suite of products, right? We primarily had Jira Software and Confluence. Those were our key offerings back in the day. In the initial days, we baked in our billing platform, we baked in a lot of those constructs around provisioning, which made it basically very hard for us to onboard any acquisitions. It also made us very hard to extend and scale to some of the different pricing strategies that I talked about, because we had a lot of hard coding in code over time. It was very hard to make a change, an isolated change in the system. Lastly, because it was a monolith, and of course over time, like, the domain was also fairly convoluted, we had a lot of blurred domain boundaries. So if you wanted to, let's say, introduce a new type of pricing, not only did you have to change the pricing configuration, but you had to change, like, it was very hard for us to say where all the impact would come, and the code base just kept on growing. Like, for example, I'll talk about this. Like, when the company decided to go into the direction where we wanted to support multiple currencies, right? We initially thought it would just require change in our core catalog, and probably some in the invoicing and payment space, where we have to support payments in new currencies. That project took more than a year for us to wrap up, primarily because the code just kept growing and growing and growing, and you change one part of the code base and it kind of has dependencies on another part of the code base, and eventually what we realized was we are dealing with a big ball of mud, which is where when we started this, when we had this vision, there were two options we had. One was to kind of take this big ball of mud and kind of refactor it and get it into a state where it can support all of that vision, or build a new platform from scratch. We took the decision to build a new platform from scratch. Now let's come back to the vision statement that I talked about, and let's dive deeper into some of our guiding principles, right? So I'll talk about three of the primary guiding principles that we had. First aspect, we wanted to make sure that we are unleashing growth, right? Making sure that we are building a lot of flexibility in the way we can design offerings, where we can price them effectively. So a lot of pricing strategies that we support, and also a lot of the packaging strategies. And on each one of these, we wanted to make sure that we are industry best in terms of what we offer. So from an offering perspective, we should be able to support different editions of the same offering, allow flexibility to be able to move from one edition to another and move back, try different editions, have different kinds of trials as well. When we looked at pricing, we wanted to ensure that we support all the different pricing strategies, pay for use, overage billing, consumption-based billing, billing based on different charge elements. So you can, like our products like Bitbucket, they don't not only charge on number of users, they also charge on the amount of build minutes you've used. Right, so we wanted to have flexibility on, you can charge on multiple dimensions as well. So we wanted to support all of that and really give our products the full flexibility to monetize in the market, right? Second, we really wanted to build a true platform. Right, we did not want to design solutions specific for specific use cases for specific products. One thing that was very, I think we kind of missed the mark with our previous system was we used to design very specific solutions. So if, let's say, Bitbucket comes with a certain use case, we design a solution that works for Bitbucket and doesn't work across the board, right? Here we were very clear that we don't want to design specific solutions. Any capability that we build, even for a single product, should tomorrow be extensible to any other products that may want to leverage that billing strategy. We also wanted to ensure that we build decoupled solutions. Like, we did not want to have tight coupling with rest of the platforms that we have in Atlassian, because we've also wanted to optimize for the third thing, supporting M&A. Atlassian often tries to grow through acquisitions as well, where, when we have identify companies that sort of align to our company's vision statement, and have good complementary offerings, we often try to acquire them. In fact, a recent acquisition we've had with Loon. And when we do acquire any company, like, the first thing that we want to do is basically have their customers try out our offerings and have our customers try out the new acquisition, right? To be able to do that, we need to be able to onboard them really fast onto our billing platform. That basically means and that is where I would say some of the low coupling with other platforms helps, because they may be using a different identity platform, or they may be using a different provisioning construct. They should be able to plug and play into our billing and just use our billing to be able to get a single invoice and be able to share credit card, the same credit card across these customers, right? So these were kind of some of the underlying constructs that we derived from the vision statement to say, okay, these are the engineering guiding principles that we will use to kind of build this platform. Now let me take a little bit of a detour and talk about domain-driven design. In the next few minutes, I want to talk about at a very high level what domain-driven design means and how we've leveraged that in our journey as we went about building this platform. One big learning for me over the course of my career has been that modeling domain often is the hardest challenge. If you've kind of identified the nuances of your domain well and being able to actually codify that, it truly simplifies a lot of the designing as well as maintainability. It sort of makes your software easier to evolve as well if you kind of understand the domain right. On the contrary, if you've gotten your domain wrong, and I'll talk about a few examples as well, you will see side effects creeping everywhere. Where it becomes very hard to maintain, hard to evolve, and kind of grows apart from the business. Billing, now when I talk about billing is a fairly complex domain, and which is where we kind of chose to go with a domain-driven design approach, because we really wanted to work very closely with the business and kind of understand truly what the business wants and actually codify that in our software. Now let's take a minute. What you see here is the Jira Software's pricing page. Like, question for you guys, what do you see? If we were to model an offering, if we were to look at modeling Jira Software here, what attributes do you see?
Frequency.
Yeah, billing frequency. Number of users, yes. Tiers, yes. The different editions, yes. Yeah. Billing cycle, storage, yes, good. Okay, so I got a variety of answers here, right? So what is an offering? I would say it depends on who's looking at it. I gave you a billing perspective here, right? So if I'm from a billing team, what I saw on that page was a set of pricing, your billing frequency, your trial configuration. I would have seen the dollar value there, right? If I were from the provisioning team, I would probably have seen what are the sequence of steps I need to run to be able to, when a customer is buying from me, what do I need to execute to be able to give them what they bought from me? Like, what compute do I need to configure? Which region am I configuring that compute in? Which data store? Where is the data store, and how is the whole thing going to come into play? Right? If I were from the product team, what I saw was just the set of features that you saw there at the bottom, right? What are the set of features that you're getting when you're buying from me? Like, what is your configuration, right? Which experiments am I going to turn on for you? Which experiments I'm going to turn off for you, right? So it kind of depends on who's looking, right? And that is basically what we call in domain-driven design as the bounded context, right? The same offering has different definitions in different contexts. If you talk about it from a billing context, you have all the billing attributes model in the offering. If you look at it from a provisioning context, you kind of see the provisioning attributes mentioned. If you're from product context, you see the set of features here. Right? If we were to kind of try to model all of that in a central unified model, it would make it hard to get. First of all, we would have to get all these teams together on the same page and come up with the unified schema. Every time we wanted to change it, we would have to again get all of these set of teams together to say, okay, we are changing this trait, and does it have any implication in your code base? Does it have an implication on your code base? Does it have an implication in your code base? And kind of becomes a big project that we are driving across all of these teams to get anything out the door, right? Versus now, if we were to kind of identify these domains separately, these domains then owned by independent teams can evolve independently, right? And as long as we have a communication language between them, that is the language that we need to maintain. Like we can possibly look at evolving some of these models independently. Let's say we're adding a new trial configuration, right? Like your product context doesn't care about what trial configuration is changing. Similarly, they're adding new features. Billing doesn't care about what features you're adding. You may turn on and turn off those features independently, right? Which is where like unified models are really hard to maintain and evolve, right? Domain model, defining a domain model per bounded context, ensures that you're dealing at one point in time with a subset of the complexity, right? It also helps us evolve these models very independently. The second construct I want to talk about is ubiquitous language. In domain-driven design, this concept of ubiquitous language, what it means is it's very important for all the different stakeholders to speak the same language. And I cannot emphasize this enough, right? We always work with diverse teams, right? On this project, we had, of course, our business stakeholders, we had product managers, we have, engineers, designers, business analysts. It is very important for all of us to speak the same language and align on the same definitions. This was something that we actually spent a lot of time on, and I can't emphasize the benefit we reaped from it, because once, like if I was saying something that was very different from what the business stakeholders were saying, there is some underlying gap in the domain that I have not understood it. I'll give you an example, right? At Larsen, often when we sell our software, we do, like for students, we offer a special pricing, right? We give them our software at a cheaper price, like at let's say 50% discount or 100% discount, right? Now, when we talked about it to our business experts, in my mind, I kept saying it's a discount, right? You want to sell it cheaper, you're offering them a 50% discount, right? And they kept saying, no, it is not a discount, it's a list price change. And I said, I don't understand. Like let's say it was for $100, you're selling it for $50. It's a discount. Why don't you model it as a discount? They said, no, it is not a discount. It's special pricing. When we kept probing, and because we couldn't arrive at the same language, we kept going back and forth in these meetings. Eventually, what we understood was the implication lied in how revenue recognition happened. Because when you model something as discount, in revenue recognition, our business thinks of it as that $50, 50% discount comes from the marketing budget. What they said was, it is not a marketing campaign that I'm running. It's not a discount. I want to just make a list price change. The list price should not be $100. The list price should show up as $50. It is not a discount. And that is a conversation that happened only because we kept forcing this ubiquitous language and said, we need to align. Right? And eventually the terminology that we landed for this was a synthetic pricing plan, which kind of derives from the original pricing plan with a percentage multiplier, but makes a change on the list price on the invoice. That is one example, and we have plenty other examples where this really helped us make sure that we are nailing down the domain really well. Over time, what we did was through these conversations in the early days, we kind of evolved and agreed on a common terminology, and we published a common glossary across the board to say these are the key primitives in our billing domain that we will all speak using, right? Pretty much to the level of the variable names in our code were pretty much these, right? Like we did not want to, like if we've modeled something as a promotion, we don't want to call it a discount, right? Like we've agreed on this terminology, we stick to this terminology, and that is something that will keep evolving. Like let's say the domain evolves and we all evolve together, right? But we all agreed that we would use one common glossary to talk amongst these diverse set of people. I'll give you another example where I think domain-driven design was very useful. So in our previous system, right, who's the customer? Who is buying from us? We had a very simplistic design there. We said, let's say Anu at wells.com is buying from us. We said, Anu is the contact, her email ID is anu at wells.com, and she's buying the subscription from us. As simple as that, right? Multiple side effects started creeping in over time, right? Anul has left the company. That subscription is kind of hanging in nowhere. somebody else from wells.com is reaching out to us and saying, oh, you know, my subscription is linked to this person who has left the company. Can I bring it back? Right? And then we said, okay, maybe we need to introduce the concept of a secondary admin. So that the first billing admin, billing contact leaves, the secondary one takes over. Right? But it was kind of like side effects, like something that we are trying to manage, but we hadn't really designed the system right. So when we came to the new billing platform, and sorry for, you see the CCP terminology, the new billing platform is Commerce Cloud Platform, CCP. Now in that, we actually probed a lot deeper to say, should we be modeling the company that is buying from us, right? Should we have a concept of an organization? And we said, again, we kept back and forth from with our domain experts, where they said, no, if you model it as a company or an organization, that's still not solving all my needs, because at times one company buys multiple things but wants them to be managed independently. So let's say they have their US entity and they have their India entity, and they kind of want to manage their billing separately as well, right? For tax reasons or whatever. Which is where we then said, okay, we what we want to call it is a generic transaction account, right? And a transaction account has then the same billing admins, the contact anu@wells.com, that is linked to the transaction account. But the transaction account is the account that actually owns a subscription. We then also evolved into new constructs like invoice groups, which kind of where the same organization may want to may have sub entities, right? May have sub orgs that use different softwares, and they, for their own accounting reasons, want to track that how much money is spent where separately, which is where we kind of grouped together invoices through a concept of invoice group. But this conversation, and what I want to emphasize is, this conversation happened because we were forcing and we were pushing our teams to kind of understand the domain before jumping into implementation, right? And making sure that we kind of understand and narrow down on the same language that our business experts understand. Next, I want to talk about some of the key design decisions that we took. So I talked about this, right? We decided to use domain-driven design. What we did was, within the same billing domain, we kind of understood and identified different bounded contexts. And each service, each microservice within our platform today owns one bounded context end to end. For example, like orders is one bounded, and I'll show you the overall design towards the end of what we arrived at. So orders is like one bounded context that sort of talks about how customer places an order with us, right? And kind of owns that. Subscription is another bounded context. Payments is another bounded context altogether. And each of them have their own backing microservices that are loosely coupled with each other. While the other construct that we wanted to avoid was also, we didn't want to have too many microservices, right? We also wanted to be practical to make sure that, we don't end up with too much operational overhead of small services, owning small things, and kind of being very chatty with each other. Which is where I think for us, the right balance was when we said we want to split by bounded context and not go beyond that. Next, another important design decision that we took early on was choosing to build a headless platform decoupled from all the other non-billing domains. And there are two aspects there, right? We wanted to build a headless API first platform, right? Because again, we wanted to optimize for any product should be able to integrate with us and leverage any of the billing capabilities through our APIs, right? So we were very focused on making sure that the domain that we talked about is exposed through a very clean set of APIs that again speak the same language that we've agreed upon. And that is the language that can be extended and leveraged by any of our products to actually build software. So this is this in fact has helped us easily onboard some of the newer products. Like in fact, Atlassian has launched a whole set of products where it has been very easy for us to onboard them because we were very unopinionated on how you integrate with us. We said, here are a bunch of APIs. Yes, we do have a UI, but if you want to embed the billing in your own UIs, you should be able to do that, right? Second thing, we kind of very consciously made sure that we were very loosely coupled with provisioning constructs. So again, from an acquisition perspective, they may have their own provisioning set of steps. They may not have integrated with our provisioning platform or our identity platform. We wanted to ensure that we have a clean event-driven approach where, anything that's bought from us, we publish an event that any provisioning system can then listen to and execute their set of provisioning steps. This was another very interesting design decision that we took that I think today is coming in very handy for us. We wanted to ensure that any billing configuration is a pure config. There is no hard coding in code. And this has been, I would say, not so easy for us to do as well, because there are a lot of little nuances with billing that you kind of feel like, okay, if I could just codify it and put a check here, it makes my life simple. But I'll give you an example, right? Like, for example, I talked about all these marketplace apps that we sell. Now, apps, think of Draw.io on top of Confluence, right? A billing construct there is, if I am canceling my Confluence, there is no way I can be paying for that Draw.io app, right? And that is something that we wanted to model in that config. Not put a hard code saying if Confluence is cancelled, cancel the app, right? So we kind of brought in the concept of relationship between offerings in our configuration. We also brought in the concept of if the relationship changes, these are the set of implications that get triggered, kind of set of underlying orders that we should be triggering to make sure that the config, the entitlement graph, is actually intact, right? So all of that was config driven, and what that helps us is today, if any product wants to onboard onto us, if they are not leveraging any new billing strategy that we don't support today, it's as simple as you just define your configuration. You test it out in staging that everything works as expected, and you launch in production. It's brought down our integration time from months to just a matter of 2 weeks. Now, I've talked about the design a lot. Let me just show you a little bit of what we eventually landed with, right? So this is our domain model, kind of simplified version of our domain model. What you see at the bottom is our offering catalog. Like, it has aspects around, the offering. It has the pricing aspect. It has the relationships that I talked about that we use for modeling, cancellations. What you see in green is what happens at runtime when a customer wants to have any action on any subscription or want to buy something from us. They place an order that then creates or triggers a change on a subscription. It also creates an entity called the entitlement, which is what denotes what the customer has purchased from us. A key distinction here between these two bounded contexts is this talks about the entitlement, talks about what has the customer bought from us. How are they paying for it, or how are they buying? Are they on monthly subscription, or they on annual subscription, is all modeled here. Are they on a trial, not on a trial, is all modeled here. This is just a very simple entity which says what can the customer use from us, right? On this side, you see the concept of transaction account that I talked about, the user management side of things. We have invoices, we have all the payment methods and such modeled here. This here is the overall microservice architecture. These are the different set of microservices that we have, each again kind of mapping to their own bounded contexts. Like, I think in the previous slide I didn't cover promotions, I didn't cover the concept of quoting. These are again different domain entities that kind of evolved over time, new constructs that we identified that we support. Another important thing here is, if you look at anything on this side, these are the decoupling that we have built, where StreamHub is our eventing platform, where any of the provisioning, data, analytics, finance side of things, they all just consume events. And that is how we kind of maintain our decoupling with these systems. Now, circling back, right, to summarize, like, if I were to kind of highlight the differences between the legacy platform and the new platform. In our legacy platform, what we had was a simplistic data model that we started with because our business was simple at that time. And over time, we kind of force-fitted a lot of our business requirements. In the new platform, we have made sure that our data model closely resembles the true business requirements. And we kind of keep evolving. As the business evolves, we kind of keep evolving our data model along with them. Previous platform was very hard to extend. In the new platform, through configuration and through iteration, we've made sure we can easily extend this platform. And we've also, in the new platform, ensured low coupling. Lastly, I'll just take a minute to summarize, to say why domain-driven design and where did it actually help us. It tremendously simplified our communication, right? The ubiquitous language made it very easy for us to collaborate as a group of, with all our group of stakeholders and kind of evolve the billing construct seamlessly. It has helped us maintain a highly flexible platform, and in true sense, like for a complex project like billing, it has really increased the efficiency with which we operate, and we're much more likely to build what the business wants us to build thanks to domain-driven design. Thank you. That's all I had.